Hey everyone, so this is the iPhone 11, not the 17, not the Air, the 11. Launched way back in 2019, and here it is, 6 years later, running the brand new iOS 26. And honestly, it feels surprisingly new, but feeling new and being useful in late 2025 are two very different things. So in this video, we're gonna really dig into that. I've been using this as my secondary phone mostly for testing betas and, just for review purposes like this. We'll cover everything. How this classic design holds up, what performance is really like with the A13 chip, and its, let's say, cozy 4 gigs of RAM on iOS 26. We'll talk battery life, and full disclosure, this one's got a fresh battery in it, so it's back to 100% health. We'll look at the camera and, of course, the big one, software. What do you get with iOS 26? And what major features like Apple Intelligence are you missing out on? By the end, we'll figure out if this phone is still a smart buy, if you should keep yours, or if it's finally time to upgrade. Let's get into it. Before we dive into 2025, I think it's really important to remember why this phone was such a huge deal back in 2019. It wasn't just another incremental update. Apple did something really smart here. They took the absolute best chip they made at the time, the A13 Bionic, which reviewers said just wiped the floor with the competition, and put it in a phone that was actually cheaper than the previous year's iPhone XR. That chip was the engine of the top tier iPhone 11 Pro, and you got it for $699. That was a massive win for consumers. The success of this approach really set the stage for Apple's strategy for years to come, defining how they'd position their standard non-Pro models by prioritizing that core processing power above all else. And then there was the camera. This was the first time the standard non-Pro iPhone got an ultra-wide lens. It completely changed the kinds of photos you could take, but the real star of the show was night mode. It was like actual magic. It worked automatically and the results were stunning. TechCrunch called it best in class, period. It legitimately leapfrogged the competition in low light photography overnight. Of course, to hit that price, there were compromises. It had an LCD screen, not OLED like the Pros, and it was missing a telephoto zoom lens. And those two things, well, they're pretty important parts of our story for how this phone feels in 2025. Okay, so the design, honestly, it still feels great to hold. These rounded aluminum sides are, for some, more comfortable than the flat edges of the newer models. And this purple color, it's just fantastic. The build quality is solid with what Apple called the toughest glass ever in a smartphone at the time, and an IP68 water resistance rating, which was great for its day. But then you turn on the screen and yeah, this is where you feel the age. It's a 6.1-inch liquid retina display, which is just Apple's fancy name for a good quality LCD. The colors are nice and accurate thanks to True Tone, but it's not OLED. You don't get those deep inky blacks, and side by side with any modern phone you can see the difference. More importantly, it's a 60Hz panel. In a world where even budget phones have high refresh rate screens, scrolling and animations just don't feel as smooth. It's not bad, but it's a clear step down. Now for performance, and this is where it gets complicated. The A13 Bionic chip in here is, frankly, a legend. For day-to-day stuff, opening apps, scrolling through Instagram, browsing Safari, it's still surprisingly snappy. I mean, it's not iPhone 16 or 17 fast, obviously, but it doesn't feel sluggish. The Geekbench scores I ran confirmed this. A single core of 1,762 and multi-core of 3,547. That single core score is still really respectable. But, and this is a huge but, this phone only has 4 GB of RAM, and in 2025, that's just not enough for heavy multitasking. Let me show you what I mean. I'll open Safari, play some music, scroll through my photos, check Instagram, X, YouTube. Now let's go back to Safari. See that? It reloaded the page. It happens fast, but it's a clear sign the phone couldn't keep that app suspended in memory. For casual use, it's fine. But if you're a power user who jumps between a dozen apps, you will feel this limitation constantly. And what about gaming? I fired up Genshin Impact, and you know what? It's still playable. You're not going to be running it at max settings 60 FPS smoothly. You'll definitely see some frame drops, but it runs. The biggest issue is heat. After about 15-20 minutes of intense gaming, this thing gets warm. Like noticeably toasty. The A13 can still push the pixels, but the thermal design of this older chassis struggles to keep up. Okay, battery life. As I said, this phone has a brand new battery showing 100% health. And with that, the battery life is actually really good. I can easily get through a full day of moderate use. Apple originally quoted up to 17 hours of video playback, and with a fresh battery, that feels about right. If you're thinking of buying one of these in 2025, a battery replacement is not a suggestion, it's a requirement. Don't even consider it otherwise. The good news is it supports wireless charging, which is a nice modern convenience that still holds up. The camera system on the 11 was a game changer in 2019, and in good daylight, it still absolutely holds up. Photos are sharp, colors are great, and Smart HDR does a fantastic job balancing scenes. That ultra-wide lens is still super useful for landscapes or big group shots. And video, it shoots beautiful, stable 4K video at up to 60 frames per second. For social media, for family videos, it's still excellent, but the asterisks are getting bigger. In low light, the main camera's night mode is okay, but it's been completely surpassed by newer phones, even in the budget category. Photos can look a bit soft and noisy, and the ultra-wide doesn't even have night mode, so it really struggles in the dark. And the biggest weakness, the one that was there from the start, is the lack of a telephoto lens. Any zooming you do is purely digital, and the quality falls apart really fast. So it's a great point and shoot in the daytime, but its flexibility is very limited by today's standards. This is maybe the most interesting part of the story. This phone runs iOS 26, the latest and greatest from Apple. And I have to say, Apple did a fantastic job optimizing it. This new liquid glass design language with all its new animations and translucent elements feels incredibly fluid. It really makes the phone feel modern. I mean, it makes older versions like iOS 18 feel ancient. You get new features like polls in messages, the new Games app, and call screening. It's a huge upgrade. But here's the catch. The iPhone 11 does not support Apple Intelligence. All the new on-device AI, the smarter Siri, live translation, Genmoji, none of it is here. It's exclusive to the iPhone 15 Pro and newer. For Apple, this is the new dividing line, the first time a massive headlining feature set has been completely walled off from older yet still supported hardware. It's a clear strategy to encourage upgrades. Now, for me, and maybe for you, this isn't a total deal breaker. Why? Because honestly, the AI tools I use most of the time aren't built into the OS anyway. I use the Gemini app or ChatGPT for powerful queries, image generation, and brainstorming. And those apps run perfectly fine on here. This is a crucial point. While you miss out on the deep system integration of Apple Intelligence, you don't miss out on powerful AI altogether. It's just a different app. In a way, the strength of these third-party AI platforms neutralizes one of Apple's biggest new reasons to upgrade, turning the iPhone 11 into a great affordable device for accessing best-in-class AI. So let's just be really clear about the compromises. If you choose an iPhone 11 in late 2025, you are giving up 4 key things. First, a modern display. You're getting a 60Hz LCD, not a high refresh rate OLED. Second, modern multitasking performance. That 4 GB of RAM is a real bottleneck. Third, modern connectivity. There is no 5G here. Fourth, a versatile camera system. You get no optical zoom at all. And of course, this iPhone still has a lightning port, not USB-C like modern phones. These aren't small things, and you have to be okay with all of them. Alright, so after all that, who should actually consider the iPhone 11 in late 2025? I think it breaks down into 3 groups. First, for the potential buyer. If you're looking for the cheapest possible entry into the Apple ecosystem and you find one for under, say, $200 with a new battery, I think it's still a fantastic value. It's a much better experience than most brand new Android phones at that rock bottom price. You get years of software updates, a capable camera for social media, and performance that's great for everyday tasks. Just accept the downsides we talked about. Second, for the happy current user. If you're still using an iPhone 11 and you're happy with it, especially if your battery is still holding up, honestly, don't rush to upgrade. iOS 26 has given this phone a new lease on life. It still does 95% of what the new phones do for day-to-day tasks. Save your money and wait for a bigger leap in technology. And third, for the frustrated current user. But if you're a current user and you're feeling everything I've described, the app reloads, the heat during gaming, the blurry zoom photos, then yes, it is absolutely time to upgrade. Moving to even an iPhone 13 or 14, let alone a newer model, will feel like a night and day difference in every single way. For me, this purple iPhone 11 is just a testament to how well Apple built this thing. The fact that it's still this capable, this usable 6 years later is pretty remarkable. It's not the best anymore, not by a long shot, but it is far from useless. But that's just my take. I'm really curious to know what you all think. Are you still using an iPhone 11 in 2025? What's your experience been like, especially with iOS 26? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.